The Olsinski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olsinski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olsinski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olsinski, the founding partner of the Olsinski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Jorge Gonzalez, Top Bin 90. I'm here today with a very special guest, Mr. Ted Unkel. How are you today?
All right, good to see you.
Good. So this is going to be a little bit of a different podcast interview. It's something that I've kind of always wanted to do, kind of get a referee's perspective on the game, right? And there's nobody better, I feel like, for MLS than you.
I appreciate that.
So, first of all, how are you enjoying life now post, being in the trenches of refereeing?
Yeah, it hasn't really hit completely yet, right? Because opening weekend's this weekend and everything, the adrenaline rushes that make us do what we do are when we're on the field. So I would have eliminated some of that. But I got to tell you, it's a bit refreshing. Still training, and I get to do it on my time and to my extent. And then we've had preseason, but it's been preseason meetings. It's been the preseason fitness tests. It's the stuff that you kind of always didn't like to begin with. There. So missing that stuff has been okay. It's been okay. A couple less flights.
Nice. Awesome. So what I want to do with this podcast too is kind of get to know you a little bit as well.
Sure.
So let's start maybe from the beginning. I know your dad was a referee, correct? So
he was.
Kind of, how did you kind of get into this field?
So I played a little bit, nothing to write home about, wasn't that great. Played through high school, and then I was even mentioned this past weekend, under 19, something of that nature. Was never great by any means. My baseball was where it was at. But my dad refereed, and to spend more time with him, I'm like, absolutely, I'll come with you, and we'll do local games. He made it to a state level, which was what it was back then, and he would give me his game fee. So the best part-time job in the world, cash on the field, cash in my pocket, get to hang out with my dad. And, I remember just having conversations on the way to games and on the way back to games. That time is priceless, and I don't have my dad anymore. So even more priceless now. But then once I got my playing career was over, my baseball playing career was over, I still want to be athletic. You still want to hold on to that playing life, And refereeing was there. You could still be fit. You could still be around the game. You can be part of something. So that local stuff happened. And there was one day where it was the wife of the assigner for the upper state cup level stuff had told her husband that, hey, there's a referee here in the Sarasota area. We should take a look at him. I got invited to a state cup. And it was a long ways away, long drive. And I'm like, this is dumb. Why would you ever drive this far? I'm going to be on the road longer than a normal soccer game is. This makes no sense. And went up there, and then they're like, well, hey, if you do really well here, we'll take you a flight and we'll fly you places. I'm like, this seems pretty interesting. And then it just took off like fire there. Because anytime you have a competitive thing, I want to referee the next level. And then what's that? Okay, let's keep going and keep going. It's hard to believe, what is it, this many years later. But yeah, that start was, I'll never forget. And even now, this past weekend, I was mentoring at a tournament down in Naples with people that are just getting going. We found this girl from Oklahoma, 20, that's just getting the taste, just at the very beginning. Will be first year college. Just got invited to a national type of women's academy, and it's my goals are here, and that's so cool to see because it's what we felt, or I felt back in the day.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Because referees, they're really not liked. I can't really think about 2 or 3 of us are like, you know what? Every fan base loves this referee.
Right, never. Never.
Is that
Yeah.
something that like you considered going into a profession like this? Like, or is it something that you're like, you know what? I love what I'm doing here. I love the atmosphere that I'm in, that none of that really truly matters.
Yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I say that with a little bit of hesitation because I said it was the best part-time job ever. And I want to recommend that to everybody. I have a 9-year-old daughter. When she gets a little older, to referee. But I've been around youth events, and it's very tough to say, hey, go into this environment, and everything's going to be okay, because it's not okay. Like, we in the MLS, we in the professional game, we're very fortunate, right? We've been around it long enough. Like, the louder the noise, the more white noise it is. We don't hear it. We don't pay attention to it. I think I paid attention to the emotion, because you love sports. The louder the crowd, the better it was, right? The better the teams are playing, the better it was.
Right.
So, like, as a fan of sport, you wanted that to happen. But the critique and all that stuff, not so much. And don't read social media. That's such a waste.
Listen, there may or may not be 2 bad tweets from me.
Okay, that's okay. No, it's okay. And truly, like, fans are fans. Fans. You're like, the short for being a fanatic. You want your team to win. I am a fan of teams, not in the soccer space, but like, I get really passionate about my team too. So in that regard, like, when you're coming up through, it's none of that. It's just competition. You want to be better, and then frankly, you want to be better than the next person next year, because there's only so many opportunities. Even now, right? Even now, there's only, what are we at? Like 28, 29, 30 people that blow a whistle in the MLS. That's it. I mean, this is a big country, right? We keep adding teams and so on. Like, there's a need for referees as you go. So it's just a competition piece for most of it. And then you just block the rest of that stuff out as much as you possibly can.
Okay, nice. Take me back then to when you go initially into the MLS, 2012, right? Yeah. I would consider that still MLS 1.0, right?
Yeah.
And so what was that like? Were you excited? Were you like, okay, like, this is kind of like the biggest league, so like, I need to step up my game? What was your mentality going in?
Yeah, so Jorge, I got to say, so I got my first assignment. I was my wife and I were on a cruise in the Mediterranean. Okay,
oh, wow.
And my phone rings, and I'm not answering it, and then it rang again and rang again. So you kind of have to take it, and then through this jarbled, crackly thing, it's like, we'd like to give you the game. Here's Peter Walton at the time.
Okay.
And I opened in Gillette. And I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off. It was so ridiculous. Like, everything is just 100 miles per hour. You want to be at the right spot, and you think you can't miss anything, and you have to be just perfect, which is not the case. But it's a blur. The whole thing becomes a blur. But like, that's it, right? And I don't even think then you feel like you've made it. And it's been this trek to get there, right? Like, I started my professional career started in the WPS. That was the timing worked, and that was a great thing. There's 4 of us, Alan Chapman, same, right? We started in the WPS. And then when we get that first call, like, there's nothing higher in your country to do until like the FIFA badge, which came 4 years later, right? It's a milestone moment. My jersey hangs in my office. I lost my mom about that time, so like, same thing where, like, my wife showed up and surprised me. Like, I'll never forget that moment. And I'm sure it's a lot like players, right, in the league, where you finally get that first taste of minutes, and you just want more. You want more.
I love that. How does a ref assess a game? Maybe walk us through that a little bit, right? Because we know, right, like, your team has a style of play, right?
Yeah.
And the other team has a style of play,
sure.
right? So, like, when you're a referee, like, I guess talk to us from a fan perspective. Like, how do you kind of look at a game when you're about to ref a game?
Yeah, so you mean like a scouting type of way? Yeah. So we still have senior match officials camps. We'll all get together, we'll review clips and so on. But we get a great team there. Where we have a lot of databases of a lot of film where we'll break it down to corner kicks, set pieces. How do they run when they have 4 backs? How do they run when they change lineups? If Messi's playing, if Messi's not playing, if somebody's playing or somebody's not playing. If it's an international break and we have players away. Like, we take all of this into consideration. We also have a ton of experience, right? And I can call any one of my colleagues, watch their game from the last week. Hey, it seemed like we had troubles with this player early. How did you manage through that? I saw that they were running, like Columbus was running near post stuff at the beginning of this on their corner kicks, and all of a sudden I referee them against Toronto, and they have a back post set that ends up being a pick. Well, all my attention ends up being here based on scouting. I want to give myself the best opportunity to make a decision, and it happens to be outside the peripheral. It's something we had not expected, right? So listen, I think at all times we want to be the best we can be.
Right.
Want to be perfect. Honestly, I want 11v11. I want the players to figure this thing out. I understand there's laws of the game and there's things that we're bound by. But can I move in a different way to open up passing lanes that I know are going to happen?
Wow, okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Can I use conversations I've had earlier in the season, previous seasons, build these relationships with players that I can have a more back and forth with them? If they feel like they're getting fouled, there's clearly an issue out there, right? We have to take clues. So stuff that we've experienced, stuff our colleagues experienced, stuff that I can go back and watch on film, man, it all helps at the end of the day.
Yeah, this is kind of my analogy for referees.
Yeah.
It's like the sound guy at big events. Like, you don't really notice he's there unless the sound goes off and everybody's looking at that guy, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when it's, like, flowing and it's just the game happening, you're not really thinking about the referee, right?
Right.
But, like, if there's a controversial call, everybody kind of dumps on the ref.
All right, and you can get down, it was told to me, like, we make 100 decisions a minute.
Yeah.
That's like 900 decisions over the course of a game, or 1,000
That's a
decisions.
good point.
Blow whistle, don't blow whistle, ball goes in, ball doesn't go in, manage a player, yellow card. Like, there's all this stuff that's going in, and you're trying to pick the best one at all times. And frankly, right, if someone's getting frustrated, most of what we do is managing people. So can I prevent the frustration tackle that may turn into a yellow card? Because he can only have 2 before he's out of a game. You accumulate 5 in the MLS before you get suspensions. I only have 3 tools in my bag. I have a yellow card, a red card, and a whistle. And everything else is personality and words and management style and so on. Can we use that bulk of it to make sure this orchestrates a game as best as we can? We understand there's more to it. It's an entertainment portion of it. People pay to come watch. They don't come to watch us, but they come to watch this thing play out on the field. And a story is going to be written by my assessor, by a newspaper writer, by post-game, now on Apple TV, and all these things, by folks like you that are so involved. So we have to know what that story is as the game's going on, right? I have to be aware of that. How did that connect to this? How is this decision going to impact what happens down the road? And there's things that you can't prevent. The tactical foul is tactical for a reason.
Yep.
It's a coaching type of thing. I can't get mad at that, right? We have to issue the yellow card and we go on our way. But there's other things that maybe there's a little bit too much in a tackle. Maybe there's too much dissension back to us. Can we calm that down before it gets?
Do you think body language plays a role in a lot of that too?
Oh my goodness, my daughter says, my wife makes fun of me, like, we'll just be around a table and I'll go like this, like it's my thing on the field, and she'll be like, okay now, all right.
You start pulling out the yellow? No.
Yeah, no. But like body language is huge, like even in your everyday life, right? Like I know we just met and you're happy and you're jovial, and how do we keep it that way, right? And I have to, they have to know when I'm okay. They have to know when I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
Right? Like, listen, we've reached the line. I'm open to having a conversation, but you've kind of stepped over the line, and there's definitely lines where we have to draw. So, learned that a long time ago. Herb Silva was part of U.S. Soccer, and he, I forget the name of the book, but he promoted it so much. Verbal judo. It's kind of it's a police tactical type of thing, where body language plays. And at the same time, if I'm out there and my shoulders are down, or nobody's going to believe what I'm doing.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody's believe what I'm selling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it plays a huge role, and we have to be better about that. I think we have to learn more how we use that to our advantage.
Yeah, and you touched a little bit on like player behavior, right?
Yeah.
You know, what did you see like in your time? Was it the influential players that try to like get away with more or try to pressure refs more? Was it, you know, certain players that you know are a little bit more of hotheads? How did you kind of assess the players that were like you were refereeing against?
Yeah, you know, it's look how the league has been some, what do you call it, points of emphasis per se, right? They try to get away from surrounding the referee. That became a huge problem, which was the pressuring of someone into a decision. We don't feel pressured into a decision, so I never understood that to begin with, right? I don't understand why a coach or a technical staff would go so crazy to try to influence a decision. It's not the case. It either is a foul or it's not a foul, or it's a penalty or it's not a penalty, or whatever that may be. So coming around us just made that worse. It's a bad image on the game. So can we prevent that? So my experience was that was great. Hey, help us out. Help us do our job out better. I'll always look, like we said, you know, over 13 years, you build a ton of relationships in the league. Some great stuff where you can rely on players on certain teams to help you out. Hey, maybe there's a new signing of sort that came in, or somebody that's trying to earn a contract.
Yeah,
right?
You're right.
Can we use the veteran to pick somebody? I don't know, Walker Zimmerman, Ely out of MLS, like some really good. They know how to control their emotions. They have really good perspective of their teams. Of, hey, can you help me out? Just help me out with him. And that stuff is great, right? Use whatever you can out there. And we talked a little bit before we started this interview. Those that try to deceive are like my biggest pet peeve. I think it's all of our pet peeves because it's so difficult of a job to begin with. The game moves at such pace. And we did that thing earlier where I showed you one step to the left or to the right changes angle. And just because I'm in instructor mode coming off this weekend, like angle is what gets you a decision. Being close or proximity to the decision is what sells the decision. You believe that I'm correct because I'm here and not way over there. But if I don't have the angle in between to say that he missed the ball and got the foot, then I can't make that decision correctly, right? So trying to deceive me out of that rather than playing through it, or truly, if you're going to try to squeeze through and someone happens to trip you and you go to grounds, then that makes it a lot easier to know that the stuff that I know a trip to be, right? Even at 20 miles per hour or whatever it may be, or trying to come around the bend, the way a body falls, the way you're supposed to react, all this stuff. I'm using these things to give me all the clues to get me as close to 100% of the view of what just happened.
Yeah.
If you try to change one of those and you did get clipped, but you ended up looking like you went down easy and we don't call it, my opinion, that's a bit on you, right? Why you didn't need to do that. So, yeah, so that would be that was the one thing that I just didn't like as part of the game, you know. And we've had over the course of the years, right? The league has changed.
Yeah,
we called it MLS 1.0. Like we have a lot of South American influence in the league now. And CONCACAF, when I was refereeing internationally, you have the Central American influence, right?
Yeah. Listen, I know it firsthand. Like, I mean, I played high school and like nothing major.
Yeah.
But anytime the ball would go out, I'd always grab it, even if I knew that I kicked it out. Just to, and the ref had to stop me, like, hey, no, you kicked it out. And I'd be like, what? Knowing full well that I'm at wrong, right? And I know there's tons of players that are like that.
That'll try that. Yeah, they'll try little things like that. I know. But man, like that's why I think the players I always had the most respect for are the ones that just that are, we call them honest, or call them just, they're there to work. And you know, listen, whatever happens, right? If they can play through something, they love to play through something. We're talking about how sometimes we play advantage. We have the luxury of doing that. Some of my favorite games of refereeing are when we can play advantage. But it's really not our decision. It's the player's decision. If they don't want to play through something, and I call advantage, and they, like, I can't force you to go. It's your advantage, right? So we're trying to give you the best opportunity. But if you stop, then on the day I have to adjust to say, okay, then we're gonna stop and we're gonna have these set plays over and over until you've changed. On days where they want to play through things, man, I can go. Because at the same time, it's still a foul. I still have to log it as that player has committed a foul on that player. And if he's done that 3 times or 4 times and then we still play through, like there's still 4 fouls. There's still this persistent offense type of thing that could aggravate or frustrate or do something where they're trying to stop them from doing something. That's what defense is, right?
Right.
So we have, like, once again, just things that we have to recognize.
Nice.
But when you get players that want to play, it's the best. When the ball's in play, my job's easier.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Is there a certain personality that it takes to be a referee? Like when you look at certain jobs in the world, I don't know, like maybe like an analyst, like, you know, like, or an accountant.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have to be more geared towards being more detailed, right?
Sure.
Like with refs, is there something like that? Do you see a certain type of personality that kind of goes into refereeing based on what you're talking about, like the quick decision making, the pressure that comes?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I think back to the group. And funny enough, a really good friend of mine is Corey Rockwell. I'm sure everybody in the league knows Corey has the most games as an assistant referee, and he's just starting a new job, or he would have been with us on this game tonight. But he's an auditor. The guy's as bubbly of a personality as comes about it. But when you think of auditors, you think of
like boring,
and detail oriented, and like you put a pen in your pocket kind of thing, right? But it's just not that. And in this group of folks, like everybody's personality is so different.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm quick-witted. I think I have a bit of perspective. I think I can talk out of or into a whole varying array of things and through emotions and so on. But like we have others that aren't as talkative or aren't as vibrant as a personality, and they're excellent at what they do. And then we have a couple guys that are just looser and goofier, and it kind of works for them. I think beyond anything, you have to be able to withstand pressure. Every time you step on the field, there's pressure, right? It's the people in the stands, the people on the field, it's the game moving at pace. There's a lot of demands on you on that. You have to be a bit of a goldfish. Something happens, you have to forget about it and let it go, right? Because if we make, like I said, 900 to 1,000 decisions of a game, one of those happens to be big, maybe you go to review and we get it right after that. Well, you miss something. You can't let that weigh on you.
Yeah.
You can't miss something down here and be like, you know what, I'll make up for it on the other side. Can't do that either, right? And even in the excellent stuff, the game changes so quickly. I remember like my playoff game in Seattle last year. It's late. It's 90 plus, and there's a shot from the right hand side. It started on the left hand side, and my positioning, what I feel would have been perfectly. But then it swings across real quick. Shot happens. Defender, arms out, ball hits here, and I see it clear. Right, the classic arms away from the body, unjustifiable. Hits down here rather than up here. And I'm like, man, I've got the perfect angle, penalty. What I couldn't see is that it comes off the chest first, skins off the logo, and then goes to here. Okay? So we go to review and we had it ultimately right. But it's a piece of the puzzle that I didn't have, and frankly, I couldn't ever humanly get.
Yeah.
But you use all the clues that you can get to call a decision. And if I let that weigh on me, if say there was more time left in the game or we kept on going, and all I'm thinking about is this, I'm never going to be attuned to what's happening next.
Yeah.
Right?
You have 100 more decisions
100
to
more
make.
decisions.
Yeah.
So you have to let that go. You have to figure out a way to compartmentalize and throw it away and then continue on.
Okay.
So I would say out of those two things, right? Confidence is a big one, right? Not overly confident. There's humility that's part of this. You have to have humility. Realizing that, you're not going to be perfect. The players aren't perfect. You have to have empathy. By all means, an injured player, right now, especially our focus on on head injuries over the last years? Can we stop play? Can we get them treatment? If someone's just not moving correctly, can we hold up play? Can we get them treatment? Can we just walk over there and say, hey, are you doing okay? Like true empathy, and really feel that pressure and what, like I said, be able to throw out that little goldfish.
Let's talk a little bit about the FIFA International Panel, right? So talk to me about like when you first got there and kind of how did that maybe open up your perspective a little bit more from just, MLS and what you've been part of to now the world game.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the world that we live in, right? Because, and especially when you get to the panel, there's been this steady climb through the ranks. You work at the local level, you work at the state level, regional, national. Now I'm in the professional ranks. Oh wait, now I'm an international referee. And then you're back at an under 15 tournament and an under 17 tournament, right? The CONCACAF U20s, the whatever, and you feel like we're just starting over. Like you reach this pinnacle.
Interesting.
And it's a real big perspective.
Yeah.
Once again, the cultures, it's a different game. And man, it's a different way that you have to approach it. It's a different way you have to referee it. And I think the best of us that have been able to do it have had the Sunday ethnic ball, adult leagues. Man, when you have the Croatians playing the Greeks, or when you have whoever, like when that comes together, just like I think outside of the worlds of football, like as many people that can travel internationally, do it. Immerse yourself in other cultures and talk to other people. You'll become better. Same thing here, right? I think you learn a ton bit more. We also get really spoiled in our country by having great venues. Venue we're going to do tonight at Truist looks beautiful. 3 years old, awesome stuff. There's a lot of venues in the CONCACAF world that aren't great, man. They're just not great. There's a real funny story. We're walking the fields in Martinique one time, and there's a big hole in the corner flag, or in the corner area, big hole. And it ends up being it's a crab. It's a crab hole, right? And they're like, do you want to put it? You want us to fill it up? I'm like, no. It's a crab. Well, we'll just play around it. We'll play around it. But like, there's things that you deal with that you never would expect. But then there's stuff that like you kind of pinch yourself.
Yeah.
I got to referee the FA Cup second leg final in China. Like I never thought I'm the first American to referee in the Chinese Super League. We referee tournaments in Portugal, and like I'm down in Trinidad. I get to do, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, the first time they're ever played outside of Spain. Things upon things upon things, and the biggest clubs in the world, and the biggest players in the world, in front of the biggest crowds in the world. Yeah, like that stuff's, it's amazing.
It's crazy. Like you've seen like every perspective from the top tier best to crab holes.
The crab holes. The crab holes where the ball is just bouncing all over the place, and like and that team only has 7 because they had visa issues. They couldn't get it all over from that.
Yep.
Like, it's so wild, but it does it really opens yourself up, and it's been really cool for me. It's been cool. My wife was a FIFA referee, so her having a perspective, like we refereed in the same stadium in Nanjing, China. 3 years apart. She was in the Youth Olympics, and I was there for a game. Like that was wild stuff. I refereed in down in Guatemala. Her dad's from Guatemala. He used to play in that stadium as a kid. It's a municipal stadium, so it's a park when it's not being used. And we can go on for stories.
Nice.
Upon stories, it's just taking us around. But it's amazing to have been on the panel for when I was.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, because during that time, I'm assuming, I think it was 2017, MLS implemented VAR, and it's kind of cemented now, right?
Sure.
So talk to me about how that was ingrained into the cultures of referees, right? Do you feel like maybe referees felt like they had a little bit more pressure, less pressure, because now something like you have another angle or you have some time to make a decision? Because everybody might assess it a different way.
It is, yeah. I think at the beginning there was this expectation that, hey, you guys are referees at the top of your game. You're going to be experts at VAR or VAR right away. Well, that's never the case, right?
Yeah.
It was a totally different position. So at the beginning with us or with other leagues, it was always this learning curve. It had to be. You're looking at a game completely different. All you're deciding on is if there is a clear and obvious error or not. Not if you thought it was a foul, not if you didn't think it was a foul, but is it clearly and obviously wrong? Is it going to be something that is going to be, if we left this on the field afterwards, it's going to be this huge controversy that we can't avoid. For those things, I love that we have VAR. It's an extra tool. We have learned that for penalties, the camera from behind the goal has given us the most decisive decisions on if it's a penalty or not a penalty.
Wow.
Okay? But think about that from an actual refereeing perspective. Never will I be off the field, behind the goal, looking back on the field. But when a player's penetrating the penalty area, that's going to be the best view. Because the defender is going to try to get the ball, which is in front of the player. I'll be trailing. So you can see everything there. So part of that is like, great, there's a tool. And then part of that is like, well, that was an obvious trip from the backside. Why didn't I get that? And then, like I said before on the goldfish thing, like it could wear on you. Like, man. And it could happen twice, and it could be the most, we have routine decisions, difficult decisions, and impossible decisions. And there's things that
Can you
fall
say
in
that
this
again?
bucket.
Routine
decisions, difficult decisions, impossible decisions.
Okay.
I'll give you one. The law on attacking handball.
Yep.
Right? It cannot touch the arm or the hand before scoring a goal by the goal scorer, no matter if it's deliberate or not deliberate. It's just you can't score with your hands. I have a game, LAFC in Seattle, a couple years back. Late in the match, LAFC is in black. There is a ball that's sent in. It's taken down. Player's wearing black long sleeves, and it just happens to have rolled down here, goes a foot, and goes in. Stephen Fry, doesn't say boo. Not a word. He's standing there. He's looking at it. He sees it. Man, goal scored. We got goal scored. We're going to go restart. And all of a sudden,
yep, you get the call.
You get the call, and we have to go look at it. And it's like one of those things where by law we have to. But there isn't a soul in here that thinks that's a bad goal, right? There's not a soul in this place, which has been really interesting looking at that from a different perspective, from the refereeing perspective, and now my wife being at TV and looking at it from what does the world expect? What does football expect on certain things like that? So like in those situations, kind of wish VAR didn't exist. Yeah. We could just walk away and nobody for the worse. But in the stuff that we want to get out of the game, right? The violent conduct off the ball, that shouldn't be there. Or for some reason we just missed something. The studs into the Achilles, right? Like my number one job is player safety. Right. First and foremost is player safety. And then everything else comes beyond that. I never want a player to be injured. So if we take these types of tackles out of the game and VAR helps us do that, then wonderful.
It's like with everything, like the purpose behind it should be good, right? But
Yes.
then there's certain situations, like I love how you put that, the impossible situation sometimes where you just really can't assess, because I feel like even certain decisions, if people online can't even agree, imagine you who have to make the decision.
How much gray area does football, right?
So much.
So VAR is not like going to take out gray area. It's going to add more gray area. We're going to have gray area here. So, but it's played into our benefit in the league, right? I think from an offside perspective, our VAR has been good because it gives a little bit of grace. There's not this line that's computer generated on the field or semi-automated offside. This is like, if you can definitively say that he's in offside position, then certainly. If the cameras can do that, then yes. If we can't, we're good. And I think that's more accepted by the public in totality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, this is just for my curiosity, right? Like, I feel like every time there's a controversial decision, 8 players pile up on the ref, like, hey, you should have called this. Like, how do you assess that? Like, are you like, okay, like, do you mentally block everybody out? Are you listening to the captain? Can you think of scenarios? Because every game I watch, I feel like that happens.
So by law, captain has no extra rights than anybody else on the field. By law. But if you look at what world football is going to in competition, they're allowing only the captain to speak to the referee. The Euros just added it, right? And big tournaments will follow through with that. So, yes, can you pick somebody out? At the same time, I said, like, MLS is trying to get away from that. They're trying to put some type of punitive action to coming around the referee. Part of it for us was to issue yellow cards. But have you seen some things that we've done over the course of years? The pendulum sometimes swings too far. And for me, so many yellow cards is a bit of a farce, right? Like, I'm supposed to get something out of every decision. A whistle is like, I don't like that as a foul. This is our line for foul today. Can we keep that line? A yellow card, once again, like here's where we have to keep the line. But if I just start doing boom, 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 like where was the line? It's just, I didn't like what you did, and you did, and you did, and you did, but there's no real message. So you don't want that to ever happen. It's kind of the question that we get sometimes, like why do you let players talk to you or scream at you or whatever? Like, when do you draw that line for dissent? Because it happens all the time. But if we said everything was dissent, then you would have all these yellow cards, and we wouldn't be playing 11v11, and nobody would like that be in football. Now we have come to a point where we've said, like, the visual is too much, right? Stuff that really disparages you, that everybody can see and demeans or whatever, that we can draw the line there. But when they come after you, one, sets your line, right? So way back when we had a guy spray on the field, I thought that was a little corny, but it worked for him. That's fine. But can you go to your position, use body language as I do, and they stop? You've achieved something. Okay. If they keep coming, you have to pick somebody to issue misconduct to. And if they don't get the message, maybe it's a second one. But at some point, like, you can't keep going. Grab the captain or the one you have the relationship with and say, hey, come with me. We can talk.
Makes sense. Yeah.
We can talk. Just hold them back. And then you can work your way through that. Don't be deaf. Yeah. Don't let it fall on deaf ears. But have a human interaction.
I love that, because it's like such a tactical game that we see the teams play. But it's also like a tactical game between the refs and what's going on and the fouls and the situations and the personalities.
Yeah.
Right?
It absolutely is.
Yeah. All right, another kind of question for me, right? There's a lot of fan bases that I've seen online that aren't too fond of you, right?
Yeah.
Charlotte FC fans, like I mentioned, like, there may or may not be a tweet from me frustrated at one of your calls.
I'll respond after. Yeah.
Was there any stadium or anywhere that you went and you were like, oh man, I have to deal with, like, coming here? Or to you, it was just like, okay, game on, I'm headed to XYZ.
Yeah, once again, like I said, I don't read social media, so it doesn't impact me at all. And the louder the fans are, the more white noise it becomes.
Yep.
So none of that has any impact, right? I think the only aggravation that I ever got at a certain place, and it wasn't like a certain place, but it was a given night, is when the players wouldn't respond positively. When there was just, you tried everything in your bag of tools, and it's just one of those nights, like either they're in a bad mood or whatever it may be that has people off. That was really frustrating, because I'm like, we're both working towards the same goal here, and I'm not getting anything back. Then you get a little bit frustrated, and you can't get frustrated. But like all that other stuff, I have in my office at home is a really it's a, what would we say, not a picture, but saying by Teddy Roosevelt, "Man in the arena."
Yep.
You know the man in the arena.
Yep. Okay.
And if you read through that, it speaks of a few different things. It really hits home to what we do. If you haven't put your feet in the grass, if you haven't experienced being out there, then your critique really holds no water. In the same breath as he said, like, you're going to succeed and you're going to err. He uses air.
Yeah.
As we do in every single part of our life. There is not some life-changing event here. It is football. And I get that there's so much on the line and emotions and so on. But same thing with us.
Yeah.
Right? So putting that all in perspective has always been the case.
Yeah.
Has kept me level because, as you can imagine with the players too, we have quick turns. You know, when the season gets busy and you start throwing in the Wednesday nights, like we're out Friday night from our home, game Saturday, home Sunday, out Tuesday, game Wednesday, home Thursday, out Friday, game Saturday, home Sunday. That's putting a lot of taxing on not only us, families. If you have other jobs or you're doing other things, there's a lot to be had there. So, like if you haven't lived that, I can't get to a point where like critique of that makes any sense.
It's a great point. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I think everybody, like, I guess people assess it differently, right? And
Yeah.
then like when you're performing at a high level, you kind of have to understand that like you're gonna get criticism, you're gonna get hate, especially being a referee.
Sure.
You know?
Right? What was it? Like with Tom Brady, LeBron James, like there's millions upon millions.
100%.
Right? This whole last Super Bowl was about we don't want Kansas City to win because we just hate them. Why do you hate them? Because they're always winning. Like it just doesn't make any sense. But then again, like I also say in sport, like there are so many qualities that I don't know how you learn outside of sport, right? The ability to work with teammates. I have teammates, assistant referees, and so on.
That's a good
how
point.
How to succeed, how to fail, how to everything that helps you be better in life. Sport offers.
Yeah.
Right?
All the success principles.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke last week up in Massachusetts at their Soccer Referee Association Awards banquet, and I said like the lesson I want you guys to take away is like we strive for perfection in refereeing, but the real lesson is to be resilient. You have to be resilient. You may not have anticipated that ball like you wanted to. You may not have gotten that call right. It could be as little as a throw-in, or it could be as big as the penalty or the red card. But you have to continue to work through that. The best of us is what happens after a failure. How do you respond? How do you bounce back? Same thing. There's no player out there with 100% pass percentage rate.
It's true, very true.
You've watched the MLS.
Yeah.
Shots on frame sometimes are few and far between. It just so happens, right? Like by the seat 13 rows up, you may have a game ball to bring home. So this all comes into it's an unrealistic expectation to have anybody out there be perfect. The tactical substitution may not work. All of this. It's the beauty of the game. So we all strive to be perfect, but you have to be resilient.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, this is a really great perspective, by the way. So everybody that watches this or listens to it is going to gain a lot of value.
I hope so.
And different perspective, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this. Just a few more questions, and then we'll end this. Has there been any game? You touched a little bit on it, but any matches that you really enjoyed, or you did the MLS All Stars with Arsenal versus MLS, right? So I mean, that's more kind of a fun game, right? And
it was, but it wasn't. Because the MLS didn't play well.
Yeah,
right?
They got destroyed 5-0.
And it's 95 degrees in DC, and it just didn't work. So but something came really cool out of that, right? We gave that video perspective of what the referee looks like, and now you have 19 plus minutes online that you can go see what it actually is out there and see what some of those interactions are. So there's things like that. I'll never forget my first game just because it was the first game. That Madrid thing was unbelievable. We get the story that you don't know is that we had there's a referee or assistant referee in the league for a long time, CJ Morganti. He had brought two of his friends, but he was driving. CJ is not a good driver, but he's like, I'm going to pick you up. I have to pick you up. Okay, fine, whatever. We get there, and if you've ever been to MetLife Stadium, it's impossible to get in and get out. So the World Cup 26, God bless you, but it's impossible to get in and get out. So we're a little bit late, and then it's traffic for days. So I walk in, we get parked, and I walk into locker room 42 minutes before kick. Yeah, and now I've got to change and warm up, and this is the biggest stage of everything.
Goodness.
And I got to tell you, it may be one of the best games I ever refereed. It felt like I could see things ultra clear. I thought I anticipated the right thing, and I don't know if it was just an adrenaline push. And we had 10 goals that game. I had 2 red cards. Diego Costa headbutted Carvalho. We had 2 penalties. And you walked out of there it's just one of those things. It was just a smile, a satisfaction, right? Because even the friendlies weren't friendly.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that. There's too many eyeballs on it. My performance still comes over under
100%.
right under this. So like those summer games, the Guinness Center Cups, like the Mexico tours here. But like I was talking with Josh on earlier at lunch, and like I don't have much of a social media presence. I'm not out there, but I do have a X account, and I got to be honest, it's really to follow my UConn Husky men basketball team. But I posted that I was retiring, and the responses were overwhelming. And I said to him, like, you don't know how much of an impact you have on something or someone until you do. And that's kind of what this has felt like. So like my last FIFA game, my daughter got to walk me out, and it was Mexico-Ecuador, and we don't usually do Ecuador because we do a lot of CONCACAF, and we do a lot of, we have the European clubs will come over and so on, but like we don't South America outside of Copa a couple of times, right? But every single one of the Ecuador staff after the game came and congratulated.
That's awesome.
It was incredible. And they know, so they either respect the position, which I'm sure is a lot of it, have seen us work in other competitions. But I think like there's that mutual respect within the game that once go back to, if you've never been in it, you wouldn't
100%.
You wouldn't necessarily realize it. And one of my favorite things, and I think I mentioned it actually in my post, is like when we refereed internationally and you saw somebody from the league, or I was down in Guatemala and like there was 4 guys from FGCU, which is a Florida Gulf Coast University down just south of us, that I refereed at in college, and now they're playing in a club team in Guatemala. And there's like this extra, you catch each other's eye, and there's an extra smile, and there's an extra half hug, and like there's this real pride, like, oh, you're playing for your country, I'm refereeing for mine, and we've gotten this extra step kind of together.
Yeah.
Like it's
like you're at a certain pinnacle that another person is at in their industry.
Yeah. Like Joseph Martinez, I remember, like I'd see him in Atlanta, and then we'd see him there, and like we're like, this is really surreal stuff. So those type of interactions.
That's awesome. I actually have part of that tweet there that I really like that you said.
Yeah.
You were like, there's nothing like walking out in a packed stadium, standing for an anthem, the adrenaline of being on pace with a counterattack or getting in perfect position to nail the call, and the satisfaction of the team orchestrating a successful match.
Yeah.
So just reading some of that, to me, you truly cared about what you did. You loved it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
It is. There's if something didn't go right, if we missed a decision, like there'd be nights I couldn't sleep. Like it hits hard. You want to be, like you're just the orchestrator of this match. You want it to go great. You want everything to be perfect when you leave, and sometimes not. But when it does, man, like we always joke in the referee community, like the one time we can take a little bit of credit is the advantage you play that ends up in a goal. You recognize a foul. Oh, wait, they want to play. Let's go. Ball's in the back of the net. And inside, you just want to go. Because you've done what you're here to do, right?
100%, yeah.
You've done what you're here to do. So very rare do we have those moments. But the amount of conversations you have outside of those games with colleagues and even our management, like, how do we do this better? How can we continue to improve? How can we keep getting better? How can we keep our level when we're adding more teams and more games and more stress on the referee community,
Nice. So, let's talk a little bit about post-retirement.
Yeah.
Right? You know, obviously, like today we're in High Point.
Yes.
Right? And so it's for a very special occasion, and so maybe like let's talk a little bit about that, Carolina Core is playing a game against High Point today.
Yeah.
Why'd you decide to come up here today? Let's tell the people a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's real important to me, and I like this. So Josh Gillen is the associate head coach at High Point.
Shout out to Josh
at High Point University. And when I was starting in my college ranks, you can only be a college referee when you became a state referee. So that was like a rite of passage for me. We started in Sunshine State Conference. And Josh was a coach at St. Leo, which is just north of Tampa. So we got to know each other.
Okay.
Right? And that's when when I think I've realized like my personality is not going to be like I'm this siloed referee. I'm not going to talk to anybody else. I want to talk to and build relationships all over, and we just did, and we're friends. This is, man, I don't know how long ago that was, but to call it 15, 18 years ago, like we really, and we followed each other since, and we have really good conversations throughout the year. Well, Holden, this game's 4 tonight, played here. Josh recruited him, and then when he passed, like it was a really heavy, friend to friend conversation. Like I'm trying to get in Josh's shoes. Like how is it impacting you? And the same time, us in the MLS, Holden had gotten in a Philadelphia Union organization, and we're seeing tributes to him pregame and on the board. And I know the story. I know more of the story more than most because of talking with Josh. And just like everything else, I think we're all a big family. This soccer community is all a big family. So when he said they were having this game, he kind of threw out, "Hey, you want to come referee it?" He knew I was retiring at the time, and we can referee it. And I don't think he expected me to answer right then, but I'm like, "Absolutely. When do you need me?" And he called me like a week later. He said, "Are you sure?" Like that was a yes. And it absolutely was. And and tonight I was going to bring my crew, Corey Rockwell and Ryan Graves, work together in the MLS a bunch, and Corey was starting his job today. Today would have worked tomorrow, but Ryan's going to be here. And once again, I think we just want to at least proverbially offer our support, hug, whatever we can to give back to something that's I think we all love.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, like you mentioned, he played a role in this community as well. And, I think the proceeds of the match tonight are going to go to his foundation to kind of help kids as well. And so, I mean, I love that. Like, you never know where, like, your relationships or the people that you care about are going to take you. Yeah. And so with that said, is there anything that maybe you look back now or are looking forward to, right, from your career? Because I know we talked a little bit about how you had a conversation with someone who's kind of getting fresh into the refereeing game. And that brought like a little bit of excitement to you because it reminded you of when you first started. Like, what are those moments now for you like?
Yeah, I think that's always going to be rewarding. I said after I retired, this is a true trade for time. I want to know what time feels like. I don't know what waking up on a Saturday morning in my own house is like, because for like 16 years, it's not that. You're in some hotel somewhere. But our family is too tied into soccer and football that I won't venture out of way. So like if I can give back, I left a role to fill, and granted they may have hired somebody for right now, but we need 10 more of me or referees, right, to keep on coming. So can I help somebody along the way? Can we educate and instruct and mentor and give guidance along the way? At the same time, can I be a fan for my wife's team and watch her build from scratch, right? She's president of the Tampa Bay Sun and on the USL Super League, and like went from developing a crest and colors all the way to corporate sponsorships to a temporary stadium to signing players and trading players and seeing how that dynamic works, and can we be a support there? And my daughter trying to play under 10 soccer. Can I just be a dad, right? I don't need to be a screaming fan. I just want to be a dad, right? I want you to have fun at what you do, whatever that is. And maybe we can learn something along the way. And then whatever else comes about. Like, this country's going to be inundated with soccer over the next couple of years with, Gold Cup again and Club World Cup and then World Cup and USL making their announcement for Division I and MLS having a 30th team. And like I think I go back to the same thing we talked about earlier, right? You want to tell people, referee, man, it's the best part-time job ever. There's more opportunity now than there ever has been. There's more games now. We're needed more now than ever. But we need support system for that, right? It's tough for a 14-year-old kid to go out on a youth field and have parents scream at them like they're the worst person in the world. They're not equipped to handle that. Can we make better environments can I be a resource to that person or someone in that role to call and say, man, how did you deal with it? How do we get through it? Can I have some influence based on my career to go into a club or an organization and say, how do we make this better? Can I educate maybe the fan base? Can I educate officials? Whatever I can give back. Find out what that is. I'm going to enjoy what that time is first. But if situations like this come up that I can't say no to, and then certainly something will come up within the game that I'll be happy to say yes to, I won't go far.
Nice. Ted, thank you so much.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's good talking to you, Jorge.